Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Once again, I'm your host, Kerstyn, and I have my co-host.
Hey, Maxine here.
And
hello, Christopher Wright here.
Yeah, and we are the Politricks Podcast. I still don't have like a tagline. Like, I want to have a funny tagline. Like, we bring you the news on both sides without the fakeness, you know, like something. Mm-hmm. We're still working on that too. But we're on episode 4 today. Woo. So,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. The feedback has been awesome. You know, we're still growing this, so please keep sharing the podcast. Leave us comments. Please continue to share it with your friends and follow us on Politricks Pod on Instagram. How was your week, guys?
It was good. It's good. I just got to say one quick thing.
Sure.
No obstruction, no collusion.
Oh, God.
President Trump, ladies and gentlemen.
So we are probably 2 weeks from what you probably are listening to, but we just got the news. Well, actually, we just got, not the news, we got the 400-page report from, we got it freed. And let's just say that he's got some explaining to do. I don't know what
I mean,
Chris is talking
we talked about this last episode. So
he got away with.
We did. I just want to.
Yeah,
he's got some explaining to do, though, for sure. There's still some stuff that people are saying is very questionable. Even on the Republican side, I heard Romney's a little upset by that.
Oh, Romney's always hurt. A little salty Romney out there.
Okay. How about you, Maxine? How was your week?
Busy as always.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you catch the Beyonce?
I didn't.
Oh, on Netflix. Chris, did you watch the? I don't know.
I can't stop watching The Notebook.
Do you watch? Do you care about Beyonce? Like,
I'm not a fan of Beyonce or Jay-Z. I know I'm in New York. I might get shot around here.
No, you wouldn't get shot, but you will get those bees at
you. The beehive.
I'm not a concert goer, but I spent, I don't know, what is it? It was like $250.
Yeah.
And when my friend, she was like, she's one of the beehive people, and she like wanted me to go, and I was like, oh my God, this sounds like a lot of money. She planned it all. It was 2 weeks after my car accident that I was in, and I still went. And let me tell you, I don't know how with the crutch, and I was on top of a chair, and it was the best concert I have ever been to. In my life.
She's the most. She probably is. She's like the MJ of entertainment.
Her
like,
she's a performer. She's a great performer. I'll give her that.
Yeah, watch the Netflix special if you guys. It literally gives you an inspiration. Like, I was so inspired. First of all, I'm inspired by her weight loss. Like, I'm like, okay, girl, I gotta get my life together. Yeah, she lost she was 210 pounds, 218 pounds.
That's a good 210.
And she looked, but this is after she had two. Yeah, she had her twins. But she lost it in like 3 or 4 months, and like she went on like this serious like no carb, no fish, no meat, no sugar. Just no fun, but
I mean that bag though.
Right.
You'll do it if you're getting.
Oh my God! Even though I heard something on the blogosphere that she wasn't making, she didn't make as much as Ariana Grande did.
They corrected that.
Oh, they did.
Now they said they both made the same amount of money.
Okay, good. Because I was just like,
and then it was like, but the weekend.
Even Chris is upset about that.
And they both got the same.
They got the same. Okay, cool. All right, sorry. So then I was about to put out fake news.
Yep.
What in the world? Okay, so let's get into the topics. With 2020 looming over us, I wanted to talk about religion. How does it influence like political decisions for people of color? What are your thoughts? I guess on the conservative side, you probably have some.
Well, I got questions because, as you know, the black community votes about 96% Democrat, and the left is pro-abortion, and it's like, how, if you don't believe in any kind of murder, if you're a religious person, of course, thou shalt not kill, how do you support a party that kills babies? And people can say, well, Chris, it's a cell and all this. But now in New York, we have the late-term abortion law that got passed, and post-mortem abortion, where they can kill a baby up to 7, or inject it with poison, which is murder pretty much, at 7-8 months. And if the baby's born and still alive, they ask the mother, leave the father out of the picture, if she wants the baby to survive or not. If not, they take it out. So it's just like, how do you still stand by this party that is just so anti-life? And it's
my thing with like conservatives or Republicans who reference the Bible. I just feel like it's very selective. So just for viewers, to know, I am not religious. Oh. I was raised Catholic, and then when I was, I think, 21, I converted to Christianity.
Okay.
I know they're
Isn't
kind
that
of
the same?
they're very different.
No,
I know it's in the same.
We're Christians. I'm a Catholic.
I mean, it's
Christian.
in the same branch umbrella, but they're different. Okay, and then I went on this spiritual journey where I basically researched all the religions, and like I came to the conclusion that religion is man-made and none of it's real. None of it's truly correct, and so that's just my opinion. This is my opinion. Are you like
spiritual? Do you believe in God?
Yeah, I believe in God. Yeah. So I believe in a higher power that we know nothing about. I don't think humans have even the slightest understanding of God, and I'm okay with that. Most aren't, and religion brings a level of certainty for people. So I don't do the religion anymore. But I just think it's so interesting that like certain parts of the Bible are so important and necessary politically, like when it comes to abortion, or and then it's other parts of the Bible. It's like, really? You know, like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't gone into it in a while, but there's things in there that are, like, outdated in terms of, like, you can stone your wife if she does X, Y, Z, or, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, how come certain things are relevant politically to conservatives or Republicans?
Well, we can talk about the fact that it was written by males, white males at that.
No, well, not white males. You know, if you look at the country at that, where they were writing the Bible, it's Middle Eastern African area. So they you know, in the cartoons
Bible?
And movies, they had white actors.
But the problem, we don't even know.
See, I don't know. Like the apostles, from what I see, and like they don't look like they're Arab, you know, and that's what I was taught, you know, growing up. So, and obviously, I believe that if they're coming from the Middle East, that they should have color. I mean, when people talk about what Jesus looked like, they said he had color.
Hair wool.
You know, his hair was thick.
But that's
thick,
a picture someone's depicting. There's no
but it just,
support of it.
Well, that was, I think, wasn't that Michelangelo, the 16th, isn't he the first person to, like, draw, I feel like...
What you look at is Josephus. I might be pronouncing that wrong. He's a historian. He's one of the first ones who wrote about the disciples and Jesus.
But did
outside.
he know him personally?
Yeah. No, he didn't know him.
Did he know Jesus personally?
I'm just saying, if you didn't know him personally, then any picture of him is just some passed on.
Right. But that's the Bible, though. Their Bible are all written like, okay, I pass this down, I pass this down.
It's like the game telephone. How do we even really know?
Correct. So where does that influence political
So for
thought?
me, it's not influencing anymore, but I do feel even on the Democratic side, like it is a bit confusing, and I think I don't think a lot of black people even maybe consider it in that sense, and I think a lot of their political decisions are more, like you were saying before, survival based or like economic based, and I don't even think they acknowledge the contradiction in themselves with their religion, because you're like going to church every weekend and you're like heavy in the Bible, but you're always voting Democrat, and it's like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I also take the idea of like, do you think that people like, well, not even people, but like Bernie Sanders, for instance, he's Jewish. Do you think that him being Jewish, that would make certain people feel, just like how they felt like they couldn't vote for Barack Obama? Do you feel like that would make people feel like, well, he's Jewish American, I can't vote for a Jewish American if I'm like anti-Semitic, if not me, but if you're of anti-Semitic beliefs?
I feel that way about Islam, not about Jewish.
Okay. And I was going to go into her too. I was going to go into Congressman Ilhan Omar and see, like, what do you guys think? Do you think that, I mean, she was voted in like a very Midwestern state.
Minnesota is getting taken over by Muslims from the Syrian area.
Oh, because of that's where they come when they. Oh, that makes sense. The refugees. Okay.
Oh yeah, refugees.
So
and she is a refugee, right?
Yeah, she is. She was born here.
Who married her brother to get here.
Ooh, what?
Oh yeah, look at she's interesting.
We have to look up these.
Maxine and I look at each other like
you guys can see these looks these ladies have.
Let me get my notes.
Please look and did she marry her brother? Oh my God, I don't believe that. And if she did,
we gotta follow.
Let me just say something.
She's a character, man.
I don't believe that.
She's very much.
They would not vote a congresswoman.
Listen,
I don't want to talk about Republicans and their weird stuff.
Where did she come from?
She came from what I want to say Libya or Libya.
No. I think she's either Somali. She's one of like Ethiopian.
So,
she's one of the.
She's in a rough place, a rough spot.
Eastern
though.
African.
Right,
Very radicalized spot.
Let's just say she had to do what she had to do.
I was just gonna say,
like, I don't think she's sleeping with her brother.
No. She didn't marry. It was like they're not married still. It was a marriage. Like boom, married, got me in. Okay, I'm legally here. Okay, we're divorced.
Let's find out. We'll find out. We're gonna find out.
But I'm not gonna.
But the
judge her
point
if she
is,
did that.
I talk about Bernie. I say I always wonder because I'm like, geez, people are so. Now that I see it, a lot of people are very, very racist, right? And anti-Semitic and
but Bernie's not like the very Jewish type.
I didn't know he was Jewish.
Are you crazy?
Is he?
Bernie Sanders from New York. Do you hear how he speaks? Bernie is he literally is like my neighbors. You know what I mean? Like he's so, and you know what it is?
He's not like a Hasidic Jew.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't matter. I mean, there really wouldn't be. I mean, I don't think there's like a Hasidic Jew.
But I'm just saying.
I didn't know Bernie was Jewish. You said it. But as soon as you said it, I could see him being Jewish.
Okay, he doesn't. Okay.
I'm just saying, if that's the stuff that will suddenly turn people off. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm asking. I'm wondering if that's.
He's never brought it up.
To me, Bernie.
But a lot of Jewish people are really, really happy about that. Like they can relate because it's important about. Like the thing is, it's important to see yourself, right? It's so important, and it's so important. Like I remember when Lieberman was running, and I remember hearing people say he'll never win because he's Jewish, and he would have been a great running mate for McCain, but they ended up choosing crazy lady. What's her name?
Nancy Pelosi.
No, what? How dare you?
I got my crazy ladies. I got my crazy ladies confused. Sarah Palin.
Yeah. He ended up doing that. So what I'm saying is, once it's almost like. We see Barack Obama. He's half black, but we support him like a full black. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Person. Like I guess that's identity politics.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Bernie's just a typical American who has a religion and practices it like half. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not
like most people.
Yeah. So I think that they're just like, it's just like any other politician who out of nowhere, then all of a sudden they're like stating their religion and like you would have never known because besides maybe like the few times a year they go to church.
Yeah, Trump's a Christian.
Allegedly, right? So like, but I think if
his church didn't even know. They're like he's never even.
I think if Bernie was up there speaking, Hebrew and had the yarmulke on and was referencing Jewish holidays and like, then I think people would be like, you're too Jewish for us.
Oh, but why you're too?
But if you're
is that a problem though to be too? To any religion, like would a Muslim person be able to be the president of the United States?
I hope not.
Like I said, if
yikes.
Like I said, if he,
why would you say that?
Because one, you start off by you swearing on a Quran. Like this is
what's wrong
in
with that?
God we trust.
Okay, what's wrong
and
with
it's we're a God. We're it's nothing wrong. It's
you do understand that everybody has the same God, right? We all pray. We just have different names for it.
Allah and Jesus Christ are totally different people.
Well, obviously that's not God.
Religion. The religion we have is solely based on where you were born. You do realize that, right?
And this is I know.
Like
this
if you
is America,
were born in some village in Cambodia, you wouldn't be Christian. You'd be Buddhist or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they think just as surely as you do that their religion is right, and you can't tell them they're wrong, just like they can't tell you. And it's ridiculous.
But if I go to their country and I say I'm a Christian, I'm running to become the leader of your country, they're going to cut my head off. So it's like
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Chris. But you're saying that people are so Islamophobic.
Yeah, I'm not Islamophobic. Like I said, there's people that are Muslims are living in this country since it started. The Muslims have helped build this country. So I'm not coming at that angle. I'm just coming at lead the country because we are a Christian nation. I think a Christian should.
So should we be a Christian nation?
So we can't have a Jewish president either.
That's debatable. That's what I say. Like,
how is that debatable? So you can't have a Muslim, but you can have a Jewish president.
Because Jews. I mean, we both believe in the same God as.
So you don't think that church and state should be separated?
That's what I thought America was built on.
Church and state. It should be separated
but
to an extent.
But it's not. We still have in God we trust on our
exactly
and on our money,
our currency.
We still have God in the Pledge of Allegiance,
Constitution
that the kids have to say every day.
I remember when Bush was running. I remember like they were asking him questions like about God and how God made him decide to run, and I'm like, really, dude? Like God told you?
But that's what I mean. Like here,
when people say,
and
I'm Catholic. I'm 100. Like I went to Catholic high school. Elementary school, like I'm a Catholic. I believe in God. I mean, I don't go to church as much as I would like to, but all I can say is people have to, especially at work, it's like, I think everybody has a relationship with God, right? We all have a relationship separately with our spiritual,
own personal relationship.
Right, your own personal relationship. So it's like, we shouldn't impose that. And I feel like some people who are very, very religious, they like to impose the fact that this is what it is, and this is, and then so I think that in politics and in work, in certain places, it shouldn't be, because there's so many people that have different views,
right?
That we shouldn't feel like I have to subscribe to what you subscribe to because you feel so powerful. You feel like it's so powerful.
What turns me off about religion, it's when we start fighting and killing each other that I'm like,
think about all the religious persecutions.
I mean, what is it? It's in is it Myanmar right now? They're like just massacring. Is it Muslims or Christians?
Muslims are massacring Christians over there.
It's just so bad.
And we should also probably make mention to first the Louisiana churches, the black churches that were burned down.
Did they find out what happened?
Yeah, the sheriff's son.
Yeah.
Okay, like, come on, dude. And I'm sure he's gonna get, this arsonist thug burned down and obviously he's
Deep South, right?
Yeah, and he was racist, so he burned down those churches, and it's like, really, the place where people worship, like, that's where you go and burn down things. Like, it's just horrible. And then we also have to make mention for this week. We also in France, Paris, the Notre Dame was also caught on fire from the roof, and they're saying it has nothing to do. It's not arson, but they've ruled it out.
They too quickly ruled it out. And I think they might have did that just.
You are such a conspiracy.
Every Republican, all of them, it's like they live off of all the fantasies. This guy's coming, the aliens are this. It's like, stop, live in real life. Like, it's like fake.
It's very real, man. It's very real.
So anyway, we we're these things it's just hard to hear. You know what I mean? Because it's like, where people have to be with God, I feel like mosques, temples, like synagogues that are burned, that get defamed. Like, these are people's.
That massacre in New Zealand,
right?
Was right.
The mosque, or even the one that was in the Jewish temple in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Like, it's like, we have to do better. We have to do better. These are people. We need to have sacred places. People should not feel endangered when they're in church, or when they're in the temple, or when they're in a synagogue, or wherever they are preaching or speaking to their God. Like, that's
totally
horrible.
agree with that. I don't care. Like I said, I'm not. How people that listen know how, when it comes to Islam and everything, but I still think this is America. It's a free country. You need your place. You want a place to worship, you have your freedom to worship. That's just part of whatever that worshiping. You can worship if Satan's your God. Good luck with that. But you should still have
just stay away from me. That's right.
Yeah. Please stay away from me. I won't be nowhere near you.
We don't want that. We don't. If you are, because if you can, that's your right. But please stay away from the three of us. We do not want that in our lives. We want all the positive.
But speaking about Bible real quick, the Bible did mention these times in the Bible as in the end times that these occurrences will be happening. So that's.
I've been feeling like, I don't know. This is when I'm going to get conspiracy, but I kind of feel like things are just so off. Like, everything's off kilter. I really do. I feel like we're just we're. And maybe we need to be closer to God.
I was just gonna say, I don't
we
think
do.
This is.
Maybe we do.
I don't know about this whole end time thing. I think, did you read, it was in 1984, that book or something that said, in the future there will be no religion and everyone's going to be kind of more like me, just like fluidly, like believing in a higher power, but not trying to like
one world order, one world religion.
And you know what? Like, because whenever I talk to religious people, right, and they bring up like Jesus and the Bible and Christianity, which, remember, most of my entire life until I was in my mid-20s, that's what I believed. I would say to them, but what about like ancient Egypt or ancient Greece? This is before Jesus, They believed in multiple gods, so much so that you can still see today structures standing there of the multiple gods they believed in. And they were so sure they had an entire organized society around it. Like, no one was to tell them that was wrong. And it's like, are we just in a different time where we believe, because that was thousands of years ago. Like, it's just another time that we're like thinking about.
The one way, this is how I use to see what's right and what's wrong. When it comes to any religion, look at the prophecy, because all religions, the Quran, the Bible, they all have, they prophesize things that happen in the future. Which one is accurate? And if you look at the Bible, the reason I grew up in Seventh-day Adventist church, my dad's still a pastor. He told me at 18 you can do what you want. I said, I'm out of here. I am done. The reason why I came back to God, because like I said, everybody has a personal relationship. The way God brought me back, I love history. I still love history. So I looked at Jesus Christ one day. I said, I'm going to look at the New Testament, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I'm going to read this like Jesus Christ is a regular, everyday dude. He's not the son of God. He's none of that. He's just a guy. What makes him so special? When I looked at Christ like that, I said, there's nobody in history that spoke like this person spoke. He spoke where he would answer a question. Somebody asked him, like, they had all those high-class Jews at the time would come after him and try to, embarrass him. And they'll ask him a question, and he'll answer that question so quick, and he'll answer the question, and then he'll answer it in a way where he will be prophesizing the future. So that's why when you listen to Christ speak, it's like he's talking to you. And you're in situations
but you're getting that from a book.
Well,
someone says is what happened.
Yeah, but if somebody said this, they are good. Seeing the future, whoever this person was. Like, I don't know. I
just get so, because I'm just like, I don't know. When I think about like Christianity when it popped up, and like, now it's like everyone literally their entire lives are around this. It's like if you actually look historically, you go back thousands and thousands of years, we had completely different ways of believing and organizing society, and it's until something changes. So it's like, are we just in the moment now and like 5,000 years from now, this will be just like, we'll be the ancient Egyptians, like, possibly. When those people used to believe in Jesus Christ, like, I don't know, but ultimately to like bring it back to like what you're saying, like, I mean, so many things has thrown me off. Like I said, I went through my own personal journey, traveling the world and also just researching the different religions, and they're so varying that it was hard for me to just believe what I was taught. And it was just because my parents taught me, I'm not going to just do it that way, because geographically, they believe something completely different in China. They believe something completely, and it's like, who am I to tell them they're wrong? And the fighting, the violence, the murder, the wars, it's just turned me off. And, politically, I feel like we're just not, it's a contradiction a lot of times. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think we are contradicting ourselves a lot of times with the way we vote and how it is against what we do on Sunday mornings. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so,
or Saturday for some people.
So I don't let it influence me. I don't think a lot of black people do as well. I think they're voting more survival, economics. My religious beliefs are separate. I think for you, it sounds like, for Chris, it sounds like it is very much involved.
It's part. It is to an extent.
Mine is kind of separate, but I do want to know that you have some kind of like. I kind of like to know that if there is something that like. So as
a Catholic person, like, how do you grapple with the fact that like you're pro-choice, but like that's not what the religion? Like, how do you deal with that?
The thing is, I don't know. I'm personally, I'm not pro-choice. I think I'm pro-life. I think I think that it's.
Right.
But you're okay. So
I think personally, that's my personal decision. Okay. But now I'm like of age, like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But I believe that we should. But I don't think I should impose what I believe because that's me. I'm talking about Kerstyn. Again.
Because that's very clear, right?
So homophobia. Yeah, homophobia. Yeah, there is. So I personally am heterosexual, so for me I think for myself, I don't think for others. So for me, I kind of see it as I can't judge other people. That's not my point. And I think what the religion says is God is the only person that judges people. So if this person standing next to me is homosexual, that's what that person has to deal with God. It's not mine. That's not what I have to deal with. So I don't have the right to judge. I don't, and I never will, and I never will see it as. Now, for me to say if it's wrong or right,
judging,
right, but
look at. No,
they're just giving you what the rules are, but what they want, right? But if I'm following it, I'm following what I personally. This is what I'm following. Not saying that if I was gay, then maybe it would be a different story for me. But right now, for me, if we're going to talk about if we're going to go through the what the Bible asks, I don't feel like it's our right to judge because the Bible also says that the only judge is God. So we shouldn't be looking at each other and saying, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you should have the right to be married, you should have the right to do this.
I guess I know you want to do this another episode, but like I'm just thinking about the guy who's standing out and screaming Sodom and whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, he's thinking, I'm just standing up for my religion and what I've taught and what I believe and what I see and read in the Bible.
Yeah,
and I think like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, there's a story in the Bible that kind of reflects what we were talking about when we came to Christ. One of the Pharisees came to Christ when he was speaking to a group of people, and he kind of came to kind of stomp them in front of everybody. And he was like, he gave him a coin, and he flipped it at Christ, and Christ caught it, and he said, now, when it comes to, and he's similar question now, when it comes to, with God and your religion, how does it, reflect when it comes to Rome and our policies and our laws here? And he asked him that question to say, like, aren't you overstepping boundaries when it comes to what, you asking Christians to overstep their boundaries to become a part of Roman culture? And he grabbed the coin, he flipped it back to him, and he said, what God is God's and what Caesar's is Caesar's. And that's where separating church and state came from, was Christ making that statement. So that's...
Okay. That is very important. Religion is very important in political decision making. So I think because we're based on a Christian, I guess that's what the country's recognizes as the religion of our people in the United States. I think that everything will be kind of based off of the Bible. So, all right, next topic.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Actually, I didn't know it would go into all these different things. So do people of color think our politicians can do anything about race relations in our society? What do you think, Chris?
People of color can... All right, let me hear that one more time. Let me just kind of...
No, my question... So basically the question is, like, do you think that our politicians can change the race relations, like the fact that we're so divided?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
No, definitely.
You think Donald Trump can do that?
Yeah. I mean, in good and a bad way. I mean, I think if a politician comes up there and, and says certain things about like a particular community, that's why it's so important. That's why a president's a true leader, because when something happens within the black community or the white community, if you're a black president or white president, doesn't matter, or Hispanic, all the cultures, races, I don't want to say them all, but what I'm talking about. If you're up there, you can't speak on just behalf of your community. You got to speak on behalf of the country, because if you start speaking on just behalf of your community, then you're dividing as a commander in chief. So you got to look at it like that. So when it comes to situations that happen,
but he does divide.
They say he divides.
Racially, he divides. When he's like, "Oh, Mexicans are this."
But see, they say Mexican. He said illegals, and he said because a lot of Hispanics. I know a lot of Hispanics who love Donald Trump. And they, because of the fact that they came here legally and they worked hard to get here, and they love this country.
It's not about it's, but at the end of the day, it's about perception. And if a lot of people perceived that to be anti-Mexican, you've now just created a racial situation.
But that's where the media comes involved, in my opinion. The media needs to step in and make it clear to the people, like, he's not being racist, he's saying this. But the media is the one, they're so biased. And it's like the media, that's why I can't stand the media right now, because everything Trump says, they try to flip, see, he's racist, he's anti-women, he's anti... I'm like, can you guys just report the news sometimes? Like,
that's true. That is true. It's like everything is always like extremely... And I'm not saying it because of Trump. He just said a good point about the media. Yeah. I can't care. Trump is like, you can't say racist things about people, that what he said about after the North Carolina, was it North Carolina or South Carolina? Charlottesville. After Charlottesville, he said that there's good people on both sides, when obviously the guy was wrong. There was no good in that person. That person mulled through a street of people. That's not law and order. That's horrible. That's against everything that you're supposed to stand for. And for you to say that there's good on both people, there's no good. You know what I mean? These people need to start becoming good. They're bad and they need to become good. I'm not saying that they don't have things that they do in their lives that are good to people, but what they're preaching and what they believe is hatred, and it's bad. It's against the religion that you stand for.
Right.
So I do feel like Trump has 100% showed his views, his where he stands. He won't come out and say the N-word, and he won't come out and say, Jewish people are this, that, and the other, and Spanish people are this. He won't do that. But everything he has used to strike a match has helped this country become super, super divided. And I think it comes from him first, because he is the head. If you're preaching love all the time, then you'll have people that'll preach love too.
What about you made a good point in one of our episodes where you said, like, Obama, everyone thought that was going to, like, fix racism, and then it almost, like, did the opposite.
I thought Obama did a lot of dividing. in my opinion.
He never did. How could you ever say that?
When look with Trayvon Martin situation, when that happened, when he came out after the country was already having conflict between the races after that whole situation happened. Obama was supposed to come out and smooth that out. He came out and said Trayvon Martin could have been his son. Like, come on, man.
But he could have been his son. That literally could have been his son.
But what's that to do with?
Because he's a black man, and what he's saying is. But you're sticking to your community at that point. So you're siding with your community when there's already conflict.
Again, that's how it's perceived.
See, now here's for the conservatives that listen. Thank you, because good luck with what we're about to say. But here's where I have to say you guys are wrong. When he said that I could have been Trayvon Martin could have been my son, what he was trying to tell people was here is me. I'm the president of the United States. I'm a black man. What you don't understand is when I'm not the president, when I'm not the president, if I'm just a regular black man, that could have been my son. That is real. That anybody could have said that. If Bush said that could have been my daughter that got shot in the new school thing, we wouldn't say that's wrong. How dare you bring it to you? It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. The only difference is it's just that he's black. And unfortunately, when you're black, you have to pretend you're white. When you become a president, you have to be like super like I can't show that I have that I have any kind of anything that has to do with black people because black is wrong. Do you know what I mean? Being black is like the bottom. Really. I mean, that's really what it says. That's what it's like. He built a basketball court
in the White House, and he was doing the NCAA.
What does that have to do with being black?
What do you do?
Who plays basketball? Best white people? Black people dominate basketball.
White people play basketball
but
too.
Do they dominate at all?
We
dominate basketball.
Yeah, but what
That's
does
a
that
fact. Come on.
Are you saying
what does that have to do? Because
but I'm saying you can't be black. He built a basketball court. He started doing the NCAA bracket for the playoffs and everything there. So
what does that? You know how many white people do that? I do that.
Not one president. Not one president in American history did that.
He made it fun.
Are you saying that embracing his blackness created divide?
No. I'm saying I'm saying he's done it and the world didn't blow up. Like he embraced black culture.
No, he did, which is good.
Which is good. So I'm saying that's a good thing.
Most of America was, but the thing is, it was to shock to the system. You can't just be like white, and then you have this black person come in and start embracing blackness, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, what is this? So I think that didn't work for people. But to answer your question, I don't think our politicians can do anything about race relations on the surface, because I just think like our society where we're at right now, you guys, like, it's crazy sensitive. Is it not? Do you feel that?
When it comes to race in this country right now? Oh yeah,
I don't
more sensitive than my lifetime.
I don't know if people are just like internet gangsters, or like you're behind your phone or your computer, so now you're just gonna like blow up something, and like in general, if you were in person, you really wouldn't been that kind of upset about it or offended about it and said that. You know how people are just making anything out to be anything. So I feel like when you have that culture and that society, I don't think there's a lot that our politicians can do per se to like change the race relations besides creating policies that bring equity. You can't on the surface just be like, I don't think there's anything Donald Trump or anybody or, a Democrat in 2020 can stand up and say to Kumbaya America. It's not going to happen. You have to create policies where that's why people are fighting. That's why we're angry with each other.
But that's why I get angry at people saying that Trump's racist, because I'm like, Trump got the lowest black unemployment in American history. You know what I mean? He's donated so much to all these black universities across the country.
That's also because he's running in 2020. Like,
that's still.
Like I said, I think I
got to do something for your constituents if you want some vote. If he wants to make it, if he wants to have 20%, then he's going to have to do something. That crime bill was pretty strong, but it wasn't, honestly, it also helps, white people too. There's white criminals out there, you know what I mean? So it doesn't just turn the back to, it's not just for black people.
We're all Americans,
But you know what I think will kind of help with the race relations? I definitely think like seeing more diversity and representation in, because I think that it was a shock to the system to have a black president, but I think once we get that, I think regardless that was going to be a shock to the system and people were going to deal with it that way. But I think the more and more diversity we see, although we're struggling already, because it seems like whoever now between AOC or Ilhan, like they're getting it, you know what I mean? So I just think gradually over time seeing more diversity, it will just be the norm. And then on both sides, we're on both sides. And then I think creating policies where you address the inequity, because people are angry because they feel it's not equal. Think about, first of all, in the 90s, I know we were young, but didn't you guys feel like the vibe was different?
Oh, yeah.
Did anyone feel the vibe in the 90s? It was like
we were more together in the 90s.
We're different, and if you wonder why, a lot of it had to do with economics. That was a really good time economically. A lot of people were financially off or in a good standing. And then to me, I didn't feel
I don't know if it was well. I mean, we had OJ, we had and that was pretty political. That was like a racial divide.
You had those.
Everyone's like,
it was a
we
divide
also have
to an extent, but it was also showing how far we came to.
We had the what's his name, the one that got beat, Rodney King,
and the riots.
Riots. Like there was racial divide.
Crime was bad. Like,
well, not even crime. Racial tension has been you can never say. I can never look back at the 90s. I can never look back at the 80s. I can never look back at the 70s. Because I feel like today is always better than yesterday as being a black person. I don't think that
but
there's
even in
ever
a multicultural city like New York City, I feel a difference today than I did when I was a kid.
We were kids, though. We wouldn't even know.
But even my parents will say that. My parents will say that they felt.
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
My parents will say that it seems way more different in terms of like
race is a much bigger issue.
I think New York City is a good example to use.
I think we also have social media, which puts that, which also it heightens everything we think about everything. Like it's like you see one person doing something and it can go everywhere, and you're like, oh my god, this person is like. It's going everywhere, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not even a big deal. Like, you know, it's like, and then the thing about the social media is that everything, the next day it's something else, you know? Yeah. So it's like, I personally don't think that it's ever been good for people of color. I don't think it's good now. I don't think it was good yesterday, but I definitely will never look at yesterday and say it was better. I never, because every day there's always some kind of advancement.
But I just feel like because...
And technology is an advancement for people of color too, because now, you know what, I want to, this is really out of topic, but I'm going to say one thing that has, and I think Gary V, I don't know if you guys know who Gary V is, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a entrepreneur, really, really cool podcast. He's really dope. And he's Jewish American, smart guy. And he said it. He says black people, he said he used to go to school with, he went to college with black people. And, he was always around them, and for him, he got his entrance into like what happens to black people, right? So he'll be in a car with his friends, his buddies, and one of them will get pulled over, and they'll get pulled over, and he'll be the person that they're like talking to nicely, but them they're talking to horribly. So just different occurrences, and the point of what I make is what he learned. As an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, like he makes like over $20 million now in his business. And what he says is the internet is the equalizer. He says there was, you had the white man that was like, you can't go past this line. But now there's the internet where it doesn't matter what color you are. You can sell, if you like to sell apple juice, you made the best apple juice in your house, you can sell that online and become the next big, apple juice that everybody drinks, and that's the new in every Whole Foods has your apple juice. The point of what I'm trying to say is that we now have so many things that give us opportunity that what people of color have to start doing is starting to pay attention to that and stop complaining about what we don't have and start focusing on. I was
going to say, then the problem with the black community is victimhood mentality is stronger, in my opinion, now than it was when I was growing up. I mean, blacks are playing victims more now. I mean, like, and I talk to a 23-year-old sometimes, and they're acting like they got the roughest life in the world. I'm like, what the heck racial conflict did you deal with growing up at 23 years old? Like, you were born in 1990.
And even like they do polls and studies and all this kind of stuff, and we can look them up. I will reference it. Trust me, it says that people feel race relations are worse off now than they were in the past, without a doubt. Across the board, people feel that way. Why? I do think a lot of it has to do with social media.
And the internet.
And the media.
So what can our politicians do when we're all behind our phones and we have the media and we have social, like, what do we do? That's the norm now.
What we're doing. This is the start. This is the stuff we need to do.
Politricks Podcast. Subscribe. Follow us on Instagram.
Subscribe if you want to change.
That's what you do. You just keep, click like while you're listening right now. So honestly, I agree with. I mean, it's kind of. I think we're all on the same page here. You know what I mean? Well, you kind of say it's bad. It's really bad here, right? You're saying
I think so.
I think it's. I think it's a lot better than any time. So maybe we aren't on the same page. I'll still believe that today is still better. Yes, social media is going against us.
No, let me rephrase. Perception. I think it is perceived to be a lot worse.
Okay.
Which I think is what you were kind of saying.
Then I agree.
It's not actually worse.
Yeah, because it's. I mean, you can get on a bus and you can sit wherever you want. That is a sort of an advancement, right? It's still not, and I don't even like that. I don't even like the fact that I'm using this as an example, but you might get looks from someone if you play your music and it's too loud, and they might give you a look, and that might be some kind of racial tension or whatever that can also like play into it. But in society as a whole, we've gotten so much further, because there was a time when our great-great-grandparents could not be, like my mom's parents, I don't even know how they did it. My mom's dad is German, and he married a dark-skinned Haitian woman. Wow. He's white, and it's like in 1950s, 1960s, and they came from Haiti, and they were here. So it's like, how did that happen? How did that in Queens, New York? So you think about that, and you're like, whoa, like that was a really bad time. That must have been a really tough time for them. But now you can be in an interracial couple, and it's not like
it's the next to you in the bus. You don't even think twice.
Yeah, you're not like totally. You're not like you will get looks. Some people might say something,
and then you get all the. I don't. So for when I'm thinking about race relations, I'm not talking about like Jim Crow era. Like I'm talking about like the last 20 years or like 15 years. Like you know, like in the I don't know what you call that era. Technology. Post. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, our parents or grandparents had. Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like how it feels for people from like 90s on, or like after, you know, we had computers and technology really start to be the mainstream.
Right.
And the perception is that, you know, and I think it's because we have social media, and I also think it's because we have insight into things. So even though you would have heard about all this stuff, now you see everything, and it's just like hypersensitive for you.
Denzel said
just
something
like the
like
video,
that.
You know, how many...
Denzel's the man.
Yeah, he like Denzel.
I think Denzel's conservative. He just can't admit it because of his career. Shout out to Denzel.
No, Denzel said something about, like, what do you do? Because someone was asking him, like, hey, I hear you're a supporter of Trump. And he's like, who told you that? And he's like, something about, or you were going to help him run or something. He's like, who told you that? He's like, what is... And he, like, asked this, like, trippy question, like, what is the problem? I'm like really paraphrasing it because I can't remember his exact quotes, but what do you do when there's too much information that's being told, and right? And what happens when there's too much information? Everybody's trying to be first, right? We're all trying to be first. It doesn't matter what we're saying, whatever it is. Like right now, we're trying to be first. We could be 100% false on what we're saying, but we have to be the first ones to say it. So what happens?
Wow.
Then there's
CNN. That's what we have.
Okay. You know? Next topic. All right. So let's talk about. I thought we were going to go in a different direction, but I guess I'll bring up now something serious. Now, again, this podcast was done in early, where are we? April 20th, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's probably going to be a lot of news by the time.
What were you thinking? 420? I don't know, 420
Are you?
Yeah, you know, hey,
a recreational,
yeah.
Cannabis user. Okay.
I am not, but as the great J. Cole said, do as you wish.
Okay, so let's talk about. So I saw something today, and I sent it to Maxine because, like, she's like my liberal like supporter.
Confidant.
Like we just like go through stuff, and we're like, look what's happening here, and we're like sending each other stuff.
Because we can't send it to Chris.
Yeah, because we know what he's gonna say, but we know we're gonna talk to him. So we're like, okay, let's wait till, and we don't want to give him like our we don't want him to know what we're gonna say first, so we want to do it live here. So so there was this story of like oh, John, why didn't I look up his name? Oh, gosh. Maxine, do you want to, find out his name? So we just saw this on Sean King's, shouts out to Sean King, who does the difficult work. You know, he's very, very...
White. I'm sorry.
Oh. Is he white?
He's white. His birth certificate has a white and two white parents on the birth certificate.
Okay. Well, we just saw
Luca. His name's
Luca.
Luca.
That's his name. Okay, so Luca, we just I hope by the time this airs there'll be some better news, something for him. Maybe the police are. I'm hoping that these police officers are arrested and charged with battery and anything else that they could throw at them. And then I hope this guy gets, this kid gets, money for his health. I guess he got his face slammed in. So I'm hoping that he gets not only money for, his medical bills, but also for his health, his mental health. You know what I mean? Like, just now, you're 15.
So painful.
You're 15 years old. You know what I mean? And
Did you see this?
No, I'm hearing about this for the first time.
Okay, so this
Maybe
kid,
give him, the background.
So basically, I mean, from what I've seen, this is very, very new. The kid was, and these are just the same stories over and over. Like I could pick a story, and it's the same thing. It was a mob of black teenagers kind of hanging out, riled up. Police officers were called in, and they basically were trying to kind of, I guess,
calm the situation.
Probably. And they were arresting one person, and they had the kid behind his hands behind his back. And then the other kid, Luca, was picking up a cell phone on the floor because I guess it was his friend's cell phone, so he didn't want it to get trampled or whatever. So as he was picking it up, and this is his point. This is what he says.
His point of view.
But again, it seems like this is there's nothing for them to well, what else could he have been? Of course they're going to say he was reaching for a gun because that's usually
he
said something that wasn't wrong, whatever. So he did say something, but I think he said, "Why'd you push me?" The police officer just shoved him. He said, "Why'd you push me?" Then the police officer, because he's enraged, they're so mad, they're so mad, they hate to be you can't talk back to them because they're your parents,
Certain way to talk to an officer.
Okay, we'll get into that. So he sprays the kid in his face, and the kid falls, and then he just jumps.
Two of them at the same time. One was punching,
and one punches him, and then the other guy takes his head, slams his head repeatedly on the concrete. And now I want to say, what part of the police training is that you have to do that to a 15-year-old kid, right? Because when you have these 15-year-old, 16-year-old white kids that are shooting up churches, shooting up schools, we take them out, we give them burgers, we talk to them like they're children. But when it's a black person, it's they become animals or something. And when I speak about this, I really want people to really pay attention to this because it gets glossed over. These are children. These are children, right. Teenagers. Teenagers do stupid stuff. They say stupid stuff. They act stupid. White, black, Spanish, they're all the same. When I was a teenager, I said stupid things. I was disrespectful. It's the same thing. All of us do it. We go through this phase. How are grown men attacking a teenager, a child, someone's child, that brutally?
Yeah, there's especially when you're trained like a police officer or someone in the military, you're trained in the martial arts in some format, so you know how to, when you have somebody pretty much stopped and without going overboard. So when you're trained like that, you don't have to be, if you're hitting slamming somebody's head in the wall or something crazy, you don't have to do all that to win this fight or to stop this person from attacking. So when I do see them go overboard, it's a problem, and that's why I think police brutality. And do you think
it's race related? Meaning, if it was a white kid, would they have done that?
Then that's the thing, because if you go on YouTube, if you type in police brutality to white people, you see a lot of videos of police jacking up some white people. And that's why my thing is with this whole police brutality thing. I'm not saying it's not a problem in this country, but I'm saying if you really wanted to tackle this issue, you would show every case that happens, not just black people. So
I'm going to jump in because I kind of felt that he would say something like that. Ooh. And So I got some things. These are the statistics. People of color comprise 38% of the population, right? But 51% of
and that's people of color. Black people are 12, right? 13%.
Yeah. Right. So, but 51% of all years of life lost in 2015, 2016. Years of life lost from police violence were greatest among younger age across racial and ethnic groups, but in distribution, higher among younger ages in people of color. compared with whites.
The highest, it is a higher number.
Yeah.
There's more white people.
Of course, yeah. The highest,
more white people.
Okay. The highest proportion of those killed were among the Native Americans, which I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know about the Native Americans.
Native Americans. That's why blacks always like, we have the roughest here. No, Native Americans are worse than blacks in this country.
But like what? But that's sad too, right? Yeah. We got to talk about that. Who were killed by police at a rate of 7.8% per 1 million people. So Native Americans, 1 million, 7.8 of them are being killed by police. And then African Americans died at the hands of police at a rate of 7.2%. So it's not that low. I mean, we're still in the same range per million, while whites were killed at a rate of 2.9 per million. So obviously, I mean, a life lost is a life lost.
This is the thing I was thinking about this. There is this perception that black people are more violent, right? And this is why police come aggressively at black people, because they assume I am more likely to be harmed. So I was like, let me dig in, let me look into that, right? So I look into crime statistics in America. I don't know, whenever the last census, whenever it was last done, I don't know what year it was, like mid 2015, 2016. And overall, just because of population, you have more white people, so more white people committed crime in America overall. But when they broke it down by murders or like violent offenses, black people were committing more of those crimes. I'm going to say we need to go to why. What is the situation like? Go back into that. But I don't know. Is that the reason why?
I think so.
Because I mean, like I said, I dated someone who was law enforcement. They weren't a police officer. The reason they didn't become a police officer because they really wanted to be a detective all their life. But this stigma about being black and a cop. So they decided to become a correction officer instead.
Ooh, I think that's worse.
So they're dealing with the inmates and whatever.
I would not want to. I'd rather be a police officer. If you told me that I have a choice between,
but it's because of the perception in the community and the
But what's the perception of a CEO that like
and the police versus community, which is happening? There's police versus the black community right now. But and that was the kind of the thought process that I think they were trying to explain to me. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, but like, why? Why? If it's truly the case that more black people are committing violent crimes than white people, or equivalent to white people, despite white people being a much higher part of the population, we need to talk about why.
The fathers are in the household.
Why is this
I'm telling you, man, because a father will put, especially a male, my dad, the reason I was in check growing up to 18 years, because I knew my dad could kick my butt at any time. Like, through that time frame, if I got out of line, if I got angry, there's times I got angry, my dad got my face like, you really? And I'm like, okay, let me
I don't know if that's the point.
But I'm telling you, I'm just saying, like, we need, especially black males, because black males, what happens with a black male, this is therapeutic stuff here I'm talking about right here. They say when it comes to black boys and girls, the separation between us is when a boy grows up, when he gets a certain age, around 5 or 6, he starts looking for the alpha figure in the household. If there is no male, that alpha figure becomes the mom, because she's the one that's yelling and paying the bills and So so it's the mom, or it's going to be most of the time the streets. So these kids are getting raised by the streets, and the streets don't teach you to be a nice guy. They don't teach you to be nice and talk to the cops like this. No, they teach you to F somebody up, but to get in your way, kick, punch, attack, yank somebody up, steal, rob, do what you got to do. Get your money. Get money. That's what the streets teach you. And that's what a lot of these kids are getting raised up by the streets. I didn't get raised by the streets. I grew up near Baltimore. I had quite a lot of white friends. I grew up in the county area. And what I noticed with my white friends is when we just started driving, all of us were speeding, acting like teenagers. They had points out the yin-yang on their license. I had no points. To this day, I have no points on my license. And I got pulled over just as much as they did. What happened was the cop would come up to me.
But is that fair? How does that not upset you?
No, so my white friends getting the points, me not having points.
No, yeah, well that's
what I'm trying to say. Like, the reason why they got points is because the cops looked at them like, okay, you're just.
You said you got pulled over just as much as them. I don't believe that. I think you got pulled over more than them.
No, my white friends sped every single day. I got I wasn't a speeder. I would go over speed limit by 5 or 10 miles per hour. My friend Doug and Phil, they listening. They know what I'm talking about.
So you were getting pulled over.
But what happens when
just as much as they were, but they had the points and I didn't get points. The reason why I didn't get points is because the cop will come and come to speak to me, and I'll have my hands on the steering wheel. I'd have my hands on the steering wheel. I'll do the yes sir, no sir, I'm sorry, that whole nine, and they let me go. And the reason why they let me go is because they've been doing. I know, just as happened so many times, I thought to myself, I said, the reason they let me go because they're dealing with these kids from the city all the time. Because Baltimore was a murder capital at that time, so they're dealing with these rough thug kids. That when they come up, like, man, what the F, man, man, get them, all that nonsense.
Funny,
yeah, see,
hilarious.
I think you're the
when I get pulled, and I know, but when I get pulled over and I talk to a cop a certain way, all nice, they don't expect that.
No, but
they expect attitude.
No, I have to agree with that because my fiance. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say this.
No, because that's not fair. I got pulled over.
Say that
I have had a clean. That's BS. Okay, because I got pulled over and I did all that and I still got points.
This is more a male thing too.
Okay,
also.
So
let's talk straight.
But what I was trying to get to my point earlier, because I know I was going on a tangent, is that a lot of we as a Black community, we get very upset and frustrated with the police brutality because it's wrong, right? Mm-hmm. But from the police perspective, they're saying it's more likely for me to be harmed or this to become a violent thing if I'm dealing with a Black person. It's prejudice is what they're doing essentially, but they're conditioned to think that way because the statistics are showing they're actually right. So I'm saying as a Black community, we should be mad. We should deal with it. We should have this is an inequity and it's not fair and it's not right and we have to adjust for it. But at the same time, we have to look within ourselves too and say, why are our people in the positions? No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying a lot of them are doing it for survival reasons and other kind of things. But I think as a community have to also look at ourselves and say we are committing more violent crimes. We're committing more murders, or equally committing murders than white people, even though they're by far surging us in population. We just have to figure out what is going on.
Really?
Yeah.
We gotta go.
I've been profiled. Like I said, I've been profiled before.
Are we we're not shooting up schools? We're not.
No. I'm not saying that.
We're not. No, I know what you're saying, and I mean it makes sense because when you think of where the Brooklyn areas, where do you think of like the areas that have the most crime, the crime-ridden areas? But yes, you're right. That is violence. Violence is definitely something that we see perpetuated in the Black community.
But at the same time, I'm not saying that the onus is on the people. Like police,
because that's what made me. I feel
like it's a two-pronged thing. But I'm saying this: the police are reactive, which is a problem because they shouldn't be reactive like this. They need to have better.
Well, this is what we. I mean, let's get into our next topic: community policing. Policing. I did it wrong. Oh my god! It's the way you read it. All right, community policing. Right. Mm-hmm. The central goal of community policing is for the police to build relationships with the community through like interactions with like local agencies and members of the public, right? Yep. Creating partnerships and strategies for reducing crime and disorder. They have this thing called the broken windows theory, which I thought was interesting. And it's basically a criminology term that is basically when you see visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, antisocial disorder, it creates an urban environment that encourages further crime and disorder. That's what they thought, right? So this is what all the police officers abide by. The theory suggests that policing methods that target minor crimes such as vandalism, public drinking, fare invasion, help to create an atmosphere of order and lawfulness, thereby preventing some more serious crimes. However, broken windows policing has become associated with controversial police practices such as like stop and frisk by New York City Police Department, and it also has started like the zero tolerance. But the method that requires careful training, guidelines, and supervision and positive relationship with the communities, thus linking the community policing. So I kind of took those notes and I wanted to share that with you guys because I thought that was interesting. I think that was their solution to the problem of what you're saying, that there's the violence in these communities, because they know the urban communities it's bad. You go to the Bronx, you go to Camden, New Jersey, you go
East New York,
East New York and Brooklyn, you go to Boston. Like there's just so many
Baltimore, Oakland,
and it's sad because these are all Black black.
Ran by Democrats, by the way, as well. By the way, I'm going to add that to the.
But to me, that all goes back to like economic inequalities, educational inequalities. Right. There's a lot of reasons why Black and brown people get in the position where they're committing crimes. A lot of the times it's for survival. Community policing. I mean, I live in Staten Island and I see it in a couple of, like, there's a few project areas, and the police probably right around this time will start setting up, like, I don't even know if to me,
setting up what?
So basically community policing, you can do it effectively, you cannot. Meaning you can set up, you literally have a little spot and they're there just waiting, just sitting there. They're not waiting for a crime to happen. They're like patrolling the area.
So is that good or bad?
I think that's ineffective community policing, because essentially it's like community policing means you're putting the police in the community and they have a presence and they're aware and they're used to seeing them all the time. They're like patrolling. That to me is not effective. To me, it's more like you said, when you combine it with programs. First of all, I think especially in communities of color, seeing police officers that are also people of color can help with the stigma, I think, is one. But also to do it together with the leaders of the communities, talk about certain issues, and have police officers always there when they have certain type of events. Like, to me, that would help. But if you just have police officers set up to try to instill this authoritative fear, like, that doesn't work. You kind of have, like, it's this people start to feel like violated. Like, why are you in our community? You're just assuming that we're bad criminal people.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But what about the other side? Like, there was these, I remember growing up, and now that I think about it, I think maybe the police relationship with the community is very, very divided. Like, I think right now, remember you said, like, in the 90s, like, things were a lot different. Like, I feel like I remember walking up to police officers and, like, talking to them and hi, smiling, and they would, like,
you want to take pictures?
Yeah, they were like nice. Like, they were like good to you. Now I can't even look at a police officer in the face. They won't look at me. You know, they don't. They don't. Like, some do, some will smile, but white police officers, I think that they feel a little bit of, like, they feel like we automatically think because we hate them, and I actually don't.
I mean, I don't either. But the thing is, look at what's getting portrayed by the media. Looks again like stop snitching.
Yeah.
F the police and all. It's like if I was a cop, I'd be like, damn, does anybody got love for me out here, man? Like, geez, man.
I feel like they do automatically in the Black community. I think because we're angry, we see these things, and it's like, how do you not have this anger? And I feel like it's very hard for us to separate the anger from, like, oh, there are good ones out there. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, I have to share a personal experience. So I spoke at the March for Black Women last September.
Ooh, nice.
And it was basically a march that happens every year, and it's supposed to raise awareness about domestic violence, because domestic violence happens more particularly to Black women. And we were also raising awareness to the ending of the Violence Against Women's Act that was coming up to be expired, right? So it was like, great, and I'm speaking and everything, and then we start to, like, march. We marched over the Brooklyn Bridge. So, like, I'm primarily with people of color. So when we get off the bridge, there's a point where we have to, like, turn, and there's a police officer there, 2 white ones, and they seriously, all they were saying is, you just got to turn this way, it goes this way. And the group I'm with, not people I knew, just started screaming terrible things at them. Nobody effing asked you, like, and I was just like, oh, I've never in my life dealt with it. And I'm with this group. No, I'm just saying, and I'm like, damn, like, we automatically,
I feel like we get a little bit
automatically
too
kind of have this defensive mechanism against police, and it's terrible. And I think a lot of it just came
white
from the
people.
Anger.
It's like we have to also know, like, sometimes people just have to like a lot of Black people I know, and granted, there's been a lot of things that have happened against people of color, but sometimes there are allies. There are some people that don't see people of color like the way what is seen in the media and what's seen in social media.
I think it's so black and white in this topic.
You think so?
I feel like
it shouldn't be, though.
It shouldn't be. Right now it's black.
But
and
I don't
white
see. I don't see it that way because that's the case. Then how do you go to work every day? How do you go to work? How do you pick up your mail? How do you go to the movies? You have to deal with people. You have to. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to get to a place where you're not hating everybody. You can't. Mm-hmm. We just can't. And what we're doing is, one thing that we are doing that's not good is we're not unifying ourselves. We're becoming more like, it's good. We're bringing like people of color and saying like excellence and stuff. But what we're doing is we're also pushing people away. Do you get what I'm saying? And I don't think that's also productive either. I don't think that helps us either. I think...
You mean pushing allies?
Pushing our allies away. Like, if you look on social media, if, like, on the Sean King social media that we just, his post, someone said, look at fake white people, I guess he said, like, they're fake outrage, like they're and I'm like, well, here's the problem. Here's something that we all have to know. In order for America to change something, white women have to care about it. Point blank, period. So until white women start saying that police brutality, they will not tolerate it, and they'll talk to their husbands and they'll say, no, I do not care, that's when things will change. But if you don't have those allies and you want them to keep quiet, okay, then fine, they'll be quiet. But don't get mad. This is the point.
I mean, I don't know if we need white women.
Why not?
Because
we need everybody. We all need to be a part of this. We already have
people in government. We need accountability. We need transparency, and we need accountability. I'm grateful that we have the body cams now, but we need to, like, every single officer needs to have them. All that needs to be able to be handed over. Believe me, you start putting a body cam on a police officer, things are going to change a little bit.
I mean, most of them have, and they still things happen. Like, didn't Sandra Bland?
But that's the thing we're getting, and then this goes back to the media. We're getting the one-offs, but I want to see overall. Did it go down? Did it go up? And then also accountability. Like, once you start seeing police officers that are committing these brutal acts getting served justice, it will then send a message to the other ones.
Yeah, that's important too. And then they also say there's no.
So I don't know if we need
the racists,
white,
though.
huh?
But I still, like I said, I also think they need to show, like, the media needs. So when police brutality, have somebody who's Asian, who's Hispanic, who's white, who's black, everybody needs to see it. So when it's time to unify, we all can come together and say, you know what? Yeah, I saw myself.
Police brutality is a problem all around.
So that to me will have us all come together.
So that's a good point. The problem is it's too much focus.
People can't relate. I can't relate to white woman being harassed. I'm a black woman, so I hate to say it, I'm not saying for me, but I'm just saying that's how people think.
The frequency
I can't
is still
see myself
more, though, against black
people.
Fine,
but there is still stories.
On
there's
average,
still stories.
it's more, but there's more white people getting stuff happen to them total.
No, they're not. I just said it's 2%. 2% of them are getting killed by police. 2% in 2000.
But I'm saying overall, as there's more white people in the country than there are black people. So there's more acts of police brutality towards white people than there are towards black people.
But it's not because they're white. It's not because
but that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm saying, though. It's not because they're white, but still, white people need to see it.
I agree.
But the problem is police are so more. They're quicker to take their gun and shoot a black person.
Yeah, if I was in Baltimore, I mean, can you blame them? Because that's the thing I thought when I was in Baltimore.
So you can't blame them?
No. I say can't blame. I'm not saying.
Well, police have to get home. That's the thing. They got to get home to their kids. Their theory is they have to get home to their family.
And I lived in a murder capital for 5 years straight. And Baltimore is about the size of Brooklyn. That's how small Baltimore is. And so there's a lot of killing going on.
I don't even want to go there.
No need to go there.
But this is the problem. It's like, what happens to these communities? What happens is that it's just like we get paintbrushed with the same thing. It's the same story. It's like, well, they're all violent, so what are we supposed to do? These police officers have to get home, so what they're doing is hard. We also have to see it from the police officer side. Some of them are doing their job and don't want to be shot doing it. That job is hard, man.
I never want to be a cop. I told you earlier.
I could not. Like, I have to go into some of the, do you remember the story in Brooklyn, the Asian cop? Went into the Pink Projects. It was like his first or second day.
Yep.
Like the Pink Projects, if anybody knows about the Pink Projects in Brooklyn, I forget what part, I think it's Brownsville, but those are like known for being like one of the most scariest places to be. Everybody's doing something bad in there. Yep. I shouldn't say that, but I do mean I do mean that.
We know what you're saying, Joe.
Everybody is in a hard place and they're having to struggle and stuff, but it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But the point is, this guy, this police officer shot the minute, and it was like some guy walking down the stairs, but you have to see, like, in your mind, like, imagine you being that police officer.
That's what I mean.
Think about that. We have to also put ourselves in position. Like, take yourself out of being the black person or the white person or the green person or whatever. Imagine being the police officer that has to walk.
That's the problem. He sees a black person, immediately violent threat. That is the problem.
See, now that's the
and
thing.
even though it's so much more likely, and he's right, that it's so much more likely he would, but then that doesn't mean every black person you meet, and that's why black people have no patience, no tolerance. There's no compassion, because they're like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you can't look at it. That's prejudice. That's straight up prejudice.
Yeah. So that's the issue there. So you see that when one arm you see, if you're the police officer, you're afraid for your life, so you don't want to kill the person, but you do need to strike them. And for them, it's like, strike them before they kill you. That's how they think. That's like it's not like shoot them in the leg, because they can still.
Well, then
and
someone would say,
that's why it's so important to instill, especially a black male, on how to speak to a police officer.
Well, then someone
walking down the stairs. There's nothing that guy could have done nothing but he literally just walked down the stairs. That's all he did.
But then someone can say, don't be a police officer if you have even the slightest level of fear.
That's my
I think there should be more training to be a police officer.
You have to be tough. You
Mental
have to
training.
be courageous. If you're afraid, I mean, naturally you're going to be afraid, but like, if you don't have that kind of thick skin, don't be a police officer.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's like you're doing this job.
If you actually, a lot of people, and I think we need it. Like, a lot of people actually become police officers because like it's the like last resort, or like it was some of them. It's like, for example, the guy I was dating, it was kind of like in the blood, and the dad and everyone else. It was like a law enforcement kind of family. Some people just generally love protecting, environments, but there's also a lot of people who are kind of like, I didn't really know what to do with my life,
I didn't
really right, and I know
I could make a lot of money in a pension.
The police
pension
police test comes out, and then they just take the test.
Yeah.
It really
it's
wasn't
not that tough of a test.
It's not something that they generally.
But there are certain things you have to like. There's like some sort of qualification.
Yeah, physical and mental.
I'm not saying it's not hard.
Like, don't be crazy and run a mile under 9 minutes.
Don't be crazy. There's a lot of crazy cops.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
That's one thing. That's one thing.
I mean,
cops are very intolerant. They're so. And that's the thing, their nerves are so bad. Maybe it's another thing of like rotating cops, like rotate you. If you've been in the beat for too long, rotate them out. You can't be in these areas. And then also, here's the thing, here's a solution. And I think we hear this all the time. Start putting more, you had an Asian kid in a hood project. Get him out of there. Go to Canal Street and protect Canal Street.
That's what I just said. You have to have. I said it earlier. You have to see black police officers in black communities.
You have to.
It's like
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I don't want to I'm not saying that they should break up racially, because that's not fair. But to get things started.
No, I agree.
I think it's important, or at least have more of them on the in there, because at least the black guy will know. Because there's certain things like I've seen. You can see when like you know what's a great example in the R. Kelly interview. This is the typical a black woman. Like, so Gail is interviewing R. Kelly, right? Did you guys watch that interview? Yeah. Did you see it?
I saw the clips.
You saw the clips.
And the memes.
Okay.
The memes were great.
But you see her reserve, right? Everyone was like, oh my God, especially like people of color. Right. I said that woman was just talking to her ex-husband and just looking at him like, listen, sit down, let's finish this interview.
She understood. A white woman, forget it.
They were all like, how did you do it? She was like so brave. She's on Time magazine. It's so funny because for them, they said, he was so violent. He was a little bit hysterical, but he wasn't violent. There's a difference. We understand. Look at me now. I'm speaking with so much. I'm loud right now. You understand it as energy and passion. Someone else could be in here. A white woman could be in here and say, "What?
I'm scared.
What is she doing? Is she all right? Is she going to attack you? No, not at all." Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
This is the. I'm sorry, you can't hear me. Do you understand? This is what I'm saying. Is that we need to have more people like us, especially in the urban communities, so that we can at least start.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I had white friends growing up who became cops, and the thing I would know, especially near Baltimore, I would remember all of them would say, man, their first days on the beat, they'll send them straight to the hood. I mean,
why?
And that's why I was saying they're young and they're young blood. You'll get out there and learn.
Right. It's just like like the freshmen at the schools or the hazing, they get like the worst of the worst because because I'm senior, so why should I do that? That's why it ends up the way it is, and you get a bunch of different races, and then they're newbies and they don't know how to handle.
You ever seen the movie Crash before?
Huh?
You ever seen the movie Crash?
Yes, I did. I actually watched it for the first time,
really,
recently.
Oh, that's perfect. Then you remember that scene where they had the veteran cop with the young guy, and the veteran cop's doing all this like veteran cop kind of grimy stuff to get by, and the young cop's like a cadet, like, I'm gonna get away from this guy. He's something else.
Right.
And at the very end of the movie, he makes up a lie to the sheriff to get away from that older cop. So because he won't be around him no more. So the older cop knows that. that.
Wait, is that Brooklyn's Finest? I think you're telling me about Brooklyn's Finest.
No, Crash is
that's the same thing. Okay, same movie. Okay,
And and there's a scene at the very end of the movie where they come to talk to each other one more time before they separate for good. And he goes up to the young guy and they shaking hands. And he's like, it could be pretty rough out here on the beat. He's like, try doing it for a year. And then he was like, now try doing it for 5. He said, then do it for 20 and talk to me. And then he separated.
Oh yeah, that gave me.
So, and I was like, whoo. And then the next scene after that, the young cadet is in the cop with a younger black dude who picked him up because his car broke down, and they're getting a little argument about something, and he reaches for like his cell phone and he shoots the young black dude and kills him. So it's like, so you thought about what that cop was telling him, like, look at you, you're already, you killed that guy, but you thought you were Mr. Nice Guy, but you haven't been on the beat. Now you're on the beat and you learn the little ins and outs. You become more like me, which might seem from an outside looking in like, oh, you're being grimy, but no, I'm just, I just know the routine, man. I've been through it.
Okay, and let's end it here. That was a good one, Chris. Thank you for that, sharing that story. But that's the other side of that topic.
Hopefully, we can bring someone in. One day
yes.
Different
so we'll definitely. I think we should have I think we need an episode just about police. Community policing, police brutality, police in the communities, and everything that has to do with that. I think
that's a great idea,
and the policies that could help.
And then just have another opinion, like an actual police officer or correction officer, someone that can give us their insight and give and help us.
Give us details too. You know what I mean? We're talking kind of just from the whim here, and then somebody can be like, well, technically it's this, that.
Yeah, totally. There's something, but I did like how you ended that. That was
one of my favorite scenes in the movie. That's why I was like, man, what a perfect time to use it.
Really real. Okay, so we'll end here. Thank you all for listening to the Politricks podcast. I'm like tongue twisted here. Please hit subscribe, leave a comment, let us know topics you want to hear. You can email us at politrickspodcast@gmail.com. It's actually politicspod, excuse me. I'm Kerstyn on Instagram.
Maxine.Outerbridge.
Conservative in New York, YouTube or Instagram or anywhere, I'm all over.
All right. Have a good week, guys. Thank you, everyone.